channel again. I'm going to try a couple of tutorials, like how to start with CAD. I've been using Alibre now for close to 15 years, since like version 3 or 4, I think, when it was still called FreeCAD, or I don't know if it was called FreeCAD. I think FreeCAD's a totally different thing. But anyway, it was like a free download, and you could do some pretty interesting little things with it. It was limited on how many elements you could put into an assembly or something like that, but it was kind of neat. And I don't know if they still offer a free thing. They probably don't. It's quite a bit more expensive now. It's just what I've been using. I think it's very similar to SolidWorks, and from what I've seen of like Fusion 360, it looks to be pretty similar to that also. I think it's kind of one of those things where a lot of the 3D CAD type things are kind of settling in with a basic user interface kind of thing. So I'm going to assume you know how to install a program. I'm going to go ahead and start it up here. Yeah, I want to go through the steps on how to create a simple design. We're going to build what's called a bullshit grinder. We're going to call it a BS grinder so we don't get censored. So here you've got different things. You can mess around with all these, but we're just going to stick to the basics here for right now. So this is our create a new part boss, create an assembly sheet metal part. This is the assembly one, and there's bill of materials, drawings, and stuff. We'll get to that stuff later, but we'll just start off with this basic one. You can see right below there's quick links, recent files, and things that I've created. Been making little 3D printed pieces, and we'll go into that in future dates too as I keep going, but let's just start off with basics. So go ahead and click that. Let it render out the program. So on the side here we see this design cube, and you can grab it and you can hold down your left button, move it around, you can see how it generates. Okay. So you've also got the same things here in the top left hand corner. And it'll change your perspective. You can go into isometric drawings and stuff. So if you hold your left and right mouse buttons down at the same time, you can manipulate it around. And then if you hold the buttons down and then hold your shift key down, it pans everything around. So you get used to some of these basic keyboard shortcuts. It's not super necessary that you do all of them right at once. It's more important that you kind of understand how the basics of the program work. So we'll go ahead and we'll pick our top, okay, and then click the ZX plane, right, and you'll see there's the ZX, there's your planes here on the left hand side. Go ahead and activate your sketch, okay, and you'll notice the ribbon at the very top changed to now we're in drawing mode, in activated drawing mode. Couple of different ways of starting off. You can grab a line, a circle, rectangle, whatever, rectangle on an angle, rectangle by center, all kinds of different ways to go about it. We'll show you just the basics, okay? So line, just click it and you'll notice the thing stays highlighted up there. And then just left click and then draw it out, left click again, draw it out, left click again, left click again, and don't worry about them being all the same, but you'll notice if we go select, okay, so notice that little icon, it's an arrow up and down, that's a vertical constraint. Here's an equal constraint, and you can see highlighted in blue exactly what is being constrained. Parallel constraint, that's this one that's on a slant, and you can see these two highlighted in blue are your parallel constraints. So we need to go up to this bar here, and you can see there's a horizontal constraint, vertical constraint. We're going to lock something into place. This is a equal constraint, so a symmetrical constraint. And there's like a center line and that kind of stuff. And some of this stuff you'll kind of figure out pretty easy. Here's a concentric, so you're going to draw like a bolt hole in the middle of a circle or something like that. You want it to be concentric. Tangents. I'm assuming you know what some of these symbols mean right away. So let's go ahead, horizontal constraint, and lock that one in. The other way to do that is a square constraint or perpendicular constraint. So you can select that, and you could have put those in the corners. So the other thing we'll do here is symmetrical restraint, and we'll click the Z-axis, and then click the two vertical strips there, and that'll lock those together. And then what you usually end up doing is left click off of the drawing, and then re-click your X-axis here, and then you can click the two that are similar and see it locks that into a square now. So if you go back into select, you can change the scale on that pretty easy, but we need to put dimensions on this. So what that'll do is it picks the last two things that you clicked on, and that was the two vertical constraints, or you can just hit escape, and then you can pick a particular line that you want, and then type in, like, I'm going to make this 3 inches. You can change it to metric if you're familiar with metric system stuff. I go back and forth all the time. Most of the stuff I do is in fractional inches, so not fractional, decimal inches. So like 0.25 is a quarter inch to me. I understand that pretty well. So let's make that 3. Okay, so that's our basic. We just drew a part. You can deselect the activate sketch, and we're back into that mode again, right? So see, our drawing is highlighted in light blue on this one. We'll go back up to extrude, and you can see it bosses something out for us. It just defaults to 5 inches. We want to make this 2 inches. So our piece is only going to be 2 inches tall. So, and then we hit that. You can hit the same corner. We can change perspective on it or whatever, and you can rotate or cube around. Just kind of nice to have those quick view settings. So once we've got something started, it's always a good idea to save it. So go into I created I've got like a YouTube projects file here, and then I've got a file. You just right click, create a new folder. I've already got one here, the BS grinder. Okay, so open that, and then just type in BS body. So that gives us our, you'll notice at the top of the screen it changes that. So now we've got an actual part. Now we can start cutting away the parts that we don't like, or we can add to more of them if we want. So select another plane, activate it, okay, and then you can hit reset view, and it'll snap you right to that. So now we want to go and just start drawing on kind of what we want. We're going to cut ways into this, and you'll notice it'll give you suggestions. If you look really closely, you can see a red line kind of lines up, so you can click left click, and then it's difficult to see it, but you can zoom in. I got a Logitech MX Master with a mouse wheel on the top, and you can roll it in and zoom in and out with the mouse wheel. It's kind of nice to have that. Right, hold both your mouse buttons down, shift key down, and you can move that. So you can add more lines. Hit escape to stop the line creation tool. Go back to select, and you can manipulate this stuff around if you need to. So if it makes more sense to you, right? So one of the things I want to do is hit our dimension tool up here at the top, the dimensions, right? Click an edge, and then the line that we want to constrain, 0, so we're locking that one down. Equal constraint, so we hit this line and that line, and that'll lock those in. And then we've got a collinear restraint, so we'll hit that and that, and that'll keep those in line. So now if we go back to select, if we want to grab one of these little nodes in here, see, now everything's kind of constrained, right? These doesn't matter which one of these nodes we grab, these two lines kind of stay put. So now we want to start adding some more symmetrical stuff. So get the symmetrical restraint, We'll kick our y-axis here and then constrain both of these like that, and then lock these two down. So now when you go back into here, if we move one of these nodes, see everything moves in unison, right? Okay. So now let's put some dimension to this. So let's make this 0.25, quarter inch, right? So both of these are quarter inch, and see how they changed colors now, they're orange. So if you look down, let me move me out of the way here. If you look here, we've got a little key. Red means it's just a raw drawing. It's like this is red. These are orange. Black is fully defined. Alright, so when you've got everything in your drawing fully defined, that whole sketch will turn black. So I'm going to move me back down, cover it back up again. Okay, so this, make it 1/2 inch, 0.5. This down here, make it 1 inch. Right, see everything turns black. So now we know we've got something that's fully constrained. Deactivate the sketch, and then we're going to go back up to, you can see our highlighted drawing right there. Now we need to cut it. We're going to do an extrude. So see it automatically sets to whatever your last extrude depth was. So we can do it that way. Here at the type we can do through all, so it goes all the way through. We can do it to mid plane, so it just knocks out a center. Dual depth, we can have it so that it's 2 inches on that side, 5 inches on the other side. So I want to show you, we'll just do 2 depth. The 2 inch is fine. We don't need to go anywhere else. Okay. So now we've got that. We want to make this little feature here. This, if you go over into the toolbar on the far side there, you'll see it kind of highlighted here. It says extrusion 2. It shows you the whole thing. So now we can go into a circular pattern up here at the top. Circular pattern. Pick that extrusion, and it'll just highlight it, and you just left click on it, and it'll highlight. We're going to do a radial constraint, okay, and then we need to pick a center, and I want to pick this y-axis, and see it automatically just knocks all of those out. So now we've got like a full XY pattern in there. I like the fact that it does these little previews. You can go through and relabel these if you want. Just say like ZX or whatever it is, right? Type it in there, and if you notice on the left hand side there, that extrusion, when every time you highlight it, it shows exactly what it did. Okay, so now we've got our basic part. Save it. If you want to fancy it up, you've got these fillets. You got chamfers, drafts, and whatever up here. You can shell it out, which is kind of fun. We'll cover some of those later on. But if you want to make the corners round, hit fillet, and then highlight that edge, and that's a 1/2 inch. Roll this around. Double mouse click, and shift gets you that where you can pan that thing around. Okay, and hit apply, and that locks that in, and you'll see that fillet generates in the left hand toolbar there. So, and it keeps active whatever it was, so you can go back and you can see like all your different elements as you go down into that system. So go ahead and save that. Okay, so now we can close this out. We're going to make our slide next. Alright, so same basic thing as before. We'll generate, activate our sketch plane, pick a plane that you want to activate, and again grab your tool and then draw out basically the mirror image or not mirror image, the same drawing as that extrusion that you made before. Right? Don't worry about getting everything absolutely perfect the first time you draw it out. It doesn't matter. Uh, Go through and say like a right angle, like that. Uh, Collinear, so you can lock those two together, right? And we'll want to constrain our top piece there, and then again go back into your symmetrical constraint and start constraining these stuff again. And because this is a drawing, we don't have to worry about tolerances or anything right now. We're just learning how to draw these basic parts. All right, so equal constraint, equal, all right. And then we'll dimension this stuff, or it picks the last one. So 0.25, that was 0.5, this was 1 inch, all right. So deactivate it, all right, and lost, there we go. So now we want to boss that out, extrude it out. So you can see it made it quite a bit bigger than we needed. We only made this piece to be 1 inch, but I want to go to mid plane. So you'll see it now. The part is split right down the middle. So we did mid plane. It builds equal constraints on either side. All right. We can do that dual depth if we want one side to be longer than the other. So that's the option we have there. So that's our little slide mechanism that's going to go in. So let's pick a top surface here. Now this is going to be one of those kind of impossible things, because normally what we do is like put a bolt hole, a threaded bolt hole in there. There's two ways of going about this. Well, just to keep things really simple for right now. So highlight that, activate the sketch, okay? Go to your circle icon, and then just pick that node right in the middle and draw it out, okay? So let's get to the top so we can see what's going on better. All right, so now we just need to dimension that. So let's make that 375, so 3/8 of an inch, right? All right, and then deactivate the sketch and then extrude it out at 5 inches. And if you look at it, see how it grows up 5 inches. And you can adjust it up and down. You can actually make it reverse so it'll drop down into the part. Depends on what you're trying to pull off. So bring that up, okay it, and hit the top of that again, activate the sketch again, circle. I'm going to put a button on the top of it and dimension that at 3/4 of an inch, right? 0.75. Alright, so deactivate, extrude, let's make that 0.25 tall. Okay, so we're going to put a little bit of fun on it, so fill it, grab that outside edge, 1/2 inch is too big. 1/2 inch radius. So you can see it gives us a red right up there. See the red, it says it won't apply it, it'll be a thing. So grab, you can either type in or you can little up and down arrows. Let's make it a 0.18, so 3/16 of an inch top piece there, okay? And then hit apply. And then close that out, and then we can chamfer the bottom edge of it, right? So let's just knock that radius off the bottom too much. So it's like 0.35 or something like that. Just a little bit of a bevel across the bottom, just so you kind of get used to the controls on this stuff. So I'm probably going way too fast for everybody. it's a downside because this is like what I do for quite a while. I can go back and clarify some of these if somebody makes comments about it. So that's kind of like your part, right? That's going to be our slide. So let's save that off. VS slide. Okay. So let's close that out. All right. So now we're going to make an assembly. We're going to take the assembly and let's put the body in here. Just click that and hit open, and you can see it's giving you a body on there, and you can manipulate where you want to put that, right? So just left click when you're ready for, you can put multiples in. I'll show you that next, okay? So let's lock this down because it's going to keep moving around until we can strain it. All right, so up in the left corner there it says new constraint, and it gives you, I like that it gives you a little diagram, shows you where things go. So highlight that surface, and then the plane you want to lock it to, and then these tell you, so that tells you like a coincident, it matches the two parts together. Or you can do an offset. So you say you want it, and then you notice this thing here, if you want it 1 inch above that plane or another part, you can specify exactly where those need to go, but only want to touch it right there. Okay, apply it. This one, this surface needs to be to that surface. Now we need that offset, right? So negative 1.5. All right, let's do the same this way. Negative 1.5. Okay, apply. And like I say, you can go ahead and rename all of these. Once you start getting really complicated drawings, it's a really good idea to label each one of these functions that you're putting onto it. The reason being is if you need to go back and edit down the road, it's easier to find those particular constraints or bosses or cuts or sweeps or whatever it is that you put into it, right? So having labels on everything, you can go through and it'll, on the different thing, that's a coincidence. So as you go through, it'll tell you the different pieces, but sometimes it's just easier, especially if you've got a tree with a couple hundred parts in it. It's going to be better if you go through and label all this stuff. Making files, putting things in some kind of an organization within your filing system is always a good idea. One of the things that I've done, I can show you on this. Let me save this. Save that off as the assembly. So let's just go through, hit open, and let's go just like, that way you can kind of see all the different parts. I've got a lot of just random stuff that I've had in here, but each one of these shows you exactly, different files, home projects, let's see, where was one I can show you guys. Echold. This is my little power hammer. All the different little pucks that I've made, and it doesn't show you an image necessarily. It can. Let's see, where is it? Large icons, but it doesn't really generate it unless it's a JPEG, because it's a weird, file, STP file or whatever it is. So we don't need to worry about that for right now. Let's go back to this. So we've got this. We want to change this body color. So right click it, and you can hit color properties, and then you can go through and you can pick a different color. We can make it purple if we want. We can make it brown if we want. Let's make it brown. There's a little cursor here. You can change it around, make it different colors if you want. Just click OK. You can make it somewhat transparent. That's your opacity. So you can make it more clear. You can see like the icon there at the top. Kind of gives you an idea how transparent you want. Or if you want to make it super shiny, you hit reflectivity. Doesn't really matter. Just leave it at 50%, and that's fine. Hit OK, and it changes the thing to the new color. Again, save often, depending on how stable your computer is. Sometimes if you don't have a really high-end rig with not a lot of memory in it, this program eats up a lot of RAM. Not terribly bad, not like Google Chrome or something like that, but it can. especially once you start getting a really complex drawing, it will really get out of control fast. So save stuff so you remember where you're at. You can also save different versions of it. There's ways to do new configurations and stuff. We'll get into that stuff later on. So that's that. Okay. So now let's roll that down. Now we want to add parts. Okay. So insert design. We want to add our slides in. So you see they're kind of ghosted. You can see through them. Left click, and we're going to add 2 of them and then just finish. Okay. So now we need to constrain these in. So let's go ahead and let's click the bottom floor and that one. So we want to match that up, right? Apply. Same for that one. Just constrain nose down. Apply. Okay. So now we want to lock that edge with one of these edges. And if you look at it, it's backwards, right? There's little reverse arrow flip, so click that and it turns it around for you. Kind of neat. Apply that. Same with this one here. Click that edge and then the other side that we want to constrain it to, and that one happened to be right. You don't have to do it. If you don't like it, you can undo it. Do this button here, cancel, and it'll put it right back where it was. So that one and that one again. All right, just hit apply. Okay, close that, and then let's go. So now these will move still, which is what we want for this particular drawing. We're not doing anything automated. So what you want to do is you can kind of do some measuring now. So we want these to be kind of flush, right? You could make a constraint, but for this project, it doesn't really matter. We want to measure, so Control M, right? And that'll get you this measure dialog box. There is a way in, which one is it? I don't really use it because I just use the keyboard shortcut, but there is a way to measure in, but anyway, I can't remember what it is, but just Control M. Oops, wrong button. Sorry about that. Control M. Hit the Windows key instead of the Control button. All right, so those 2 points, and it'll tell you it's like 1.4 inches. Okay, so we just know that, it gives us a little bit more of a dimension, but we're close. Okay, so just 1.4 inches is good enough. So we can do something fun here. So if you want to draw a part in this view, so say you're getting a lot of parts configured together, instead of opening up another window, you can actually draw this right in here. So new part, right? And you see everything ghosts. Pick a plane, doesn't matter where you're at, and then activate your sketch, right? And then you can go ahead and start drawing at that point. So, and then when you deactivate it, you'll see the new part in the tool tree on the side here, right? So hit save, and it's going to give you a chance. You can rename this. I'm just going to say, just take that out because I don't want to do it that way. If you're going to machine parts or plasma cut parts or something like that, you don't really want to create your new part in that mode because it won't be on a plane and it won't be centered up. You're going to get weird angles or something like that. So it's probably better off that you don't actually do it this way. So, okay, all right. So, and then right click, delete. All right, so let's just save that again. And then we can go back and open file. So temp remove, delete that. Yep, okay, cancel. All right, so we want to go back into create a new part. So new part. And again, we want to pick the ZX plane, activate our sketch. Now, this little window here at the top does some interesting things. You can pull, there's a little drop down, I mean, round shapes, square shapes, oblongs, rectangles with rounded corners, single D, double D, depending on what you're doing. Just make an oblong shape. All right. So we're just gonna select it there. Let's make this handle 6 inches wide by 1 inch. Okay. And then hit apply. And so now this is just it stays in this orientation. If we want, right click it again, edit, and you can change its angle if you need to. So if you want to make a slot or something like that, right? Okay, so now we need this to be 2.5 out and 0. I'm not putting dimensions. You can do a coincident constraint, that's this guy right here, and it'll lock that down, and I will use that on some things. But if you needed to move that, you can't undo that coincident restraint. There's no way to go through and edit it. But now, if I need to, with it locked with an actual dimension, I can change it. I can move it up or move it down, right? So that's, see, everything is turned black again. So now we want to boss that out. Extrude it, 0.5. Alright, so now it's just like a big tongue depressor. Okay, so we're going to put a couple holes in it. Activator sketch. And we're going to put 2 holes in this. So just draw it out on the base. It doesn't really matter where they're at, right? So now on this one, I want to pick a collinear, so highlight those, and see it locks it automatically. So this one, probably not a bad idea. Go ahead and pick your axis and then the part, and it'll lock that down. The other way, or Control Z, and it'll undo it. The other way you do it is with these construction lines, these reference lines. They're dotted green lines, so if you draw it out, see they turn green. Go ahead and pick the centers of each one, right? And you can dimension this. This helps you get more accuracy in your parts. So pick it and you see if you go up, see it goes horizontal. We don't want that. We want to keep it down so that the dimension arrows are parallel with the construction line. So 1.4 inches, right? So that's that, and then you can go back in and you can do a horizontal constraint and it'll lock that thing right back down. So now if you want to change that, so you decided that you want to move it, hit select, and then you can select that horizontal constraint and delete it. The coincident restraint doesn't give you that little icon that and so you can't remove that coincident restraint. Remember this were 0.375, right? And then we're going to make these holes. We're going to extrude them out. It just goes all the way through 0.5. So easy, easy, easy. Okay. So those are the 2 holes that'll lock up with our pins. Now we want to put a handle on this. This is going to be fun. This is a new piece, right? So click our XY plane. Activate our sketch. Alright, so draw our line. So we're going to do something fun, right? Okay, so just draw something out, dimension it, so we want to lock that down to that surface again. So you can use the coincident restraint, but you're probably better off not. Lock to the axis. Sometimes it's hard to pick that axis out of there. You got to get in. I don't know. It's one of those weird things. I wish the axes would be a little bit more pronounced, but they're not going to be this time. All right, so into your legend on the side in Design Explorer, and you can pick, so there it is, y-axis. Pick the y-axis, alright, hit dimension, and then that, come on, do it for me, there it goes, alright. You can highlight it, and then you can do it, and you can see it generates a little line on there, and it's, if you look, you can see it goes right through the middle of that part. Alright, so now let's throw some fun on this. We want to make this handle here, we want to make it like 7 tall. Okay, this piece here, make it 7.5. This base, okay, and then we can actually put angles on here now too. So let's make it 5 degrees. And then again from our base to there. Okay. And then you can do interangle here between these two. So let's make that 30 degrees. This is our center to the outside. We want to make that knob like big enough that it would be comfortable in your hand, right? So let's make it 1 inch. So it's a pretty good size piece. So now we've got these angles. There's 2 ways of finishing this now. You can go in, we got fillets or chamfers. We can add those in. Like on the other hand, we added them on after it was glossed. All right. Like that. Or we can add chamfers. That. So apply it, and you can see it turns I think now, because I had that dimension, it lost that dimension. So the way to avoid that is not picking the line necessarily. Instead of doing that, we dimension between these two. Okay, so now when we go to chamfer that, same dimension as before. It's still, oh, because it's not dimensioned. Okay. So now what ends up happening is this stays the same, but the chamfer is movable. See, it's not, you have to constrain that. So you have to put an angle on it, dimension it. So this is 45 degrees, right? And then like from this to that, make that 0.25, right? So that gives you that, see how it turns black on there. That's how you have to constrain those. It kind of gives it, when you do the chamfer, or the chamfer tool, it will pick the chamfer, but there's no constraints to it necessarily, so you have to go back and edit those in all the time. So we'll just go ahead and leave that alone. Okay, now we've just got our basic idea here. We can actually, let's put a fillet on this right here. Let's make that 1 inch. Apply it. Okay, good. All right. So now deactivate it, and then we've got to revolve. Okay, so it usually picks the last thing unless you click off of that screen. So if you click off of it, it'll go away, but it's already got it selected. Pick the axis you want it to go around, and see it automatically draws that part in, that little handle. Okay. And then we can fill it. So we want to put some style on that. Apply it. Close it. So that's kind of our handle, right? And one of the things we can do too is, if we don't like everything just being the default gray, you can do color, face color, and we can change all these faces. We can change them black, like that. even though it's all the same part, it still looks like a handle. That's kind of useful in identifying different features if you're not getting too detailed into something. So let's save this off. Crank handle. Okay. So close it, and then add our insert design, crank handle, open. Right. So let's go back into constraints. We're going to pick a surface, roll it in the other surface, and it's the coincident, right? Apply it. And then pick the two surfaces you want to line up. Okay. Pick these two surfaces, like that. So now, right, and you can grab that and just left click and you can hold it down, and you, if you check it out, it makes a little thing, right? It's kind of nice because you can actually do some engineering with this program, even if you're not good at math. You can actually figure out exactly what ends up needing to happen. And you can ghost this too, where you can actually look and see if there's like any interference in your design. So you can see if they were just, you can like zoom right in there and you can see that they actually miss each other. And you can go through, you can actually delete or just, you can ghost this particular piece. You can go in here, render mode, and go wireframe, right? So let's look at the bottom. So now we can watch those two, and you can see right there, they actually intersect. So it's kind of useful. So the easiest way to fix something like that is either change the scale on something. You can go through and either open this hole up between these two. So we can do that. We can go through, right click it, edit here, right? And then we gotta go to our extrusion. So click, find that particular thing where the drawing where you drew those two holes, right? So let's change that dimension. Edit 1.4375. Okay. So 7/16. Deactivate, and see it automatically updates everything, which is kind of neat because it gives you that chance that we can go through and we can edit stuff right on the fly. So let's click our bottom. Let's center that up again, and now we can move this. Oh, we gotta save it. Sorry. Crank handle, and that updates the previous file that we for the handle that we created earlier. So now we can see when we move that, they don't touch anymore. So we know that that was the right thing to do for that. Nope. So you notice the handle part of it's missing, and if you look on the legend on here, it's ghosted out. It's not solid like the other ones. And that's because I didn't generate to the last feature. So there's a button right here. Boop, pops it right up. And that's our colors and all that stuff. I forgot to do that. So let's go ahead and save this back off. All right. So I went to render mode, shaded. There we go. Back to where we were. So now it gives you an idea of some basics on here. Sorry, this one ran a little bit long, but this kind of gives you an idea of what we're messing with. And I hope you learned something off of it. Thanks.